I just think it's funny that the top G is a fanboy, and he runs with this whole thing like, "What color is your Bugatti?"
Jake Paul has just made headlines again, but this time it's because Andrew Tate called him out for a fight. And as you can probably guess, Jake's response is exactly what we'd expect from him, a long, drawn-out monologue loaded with overconfidence and a heavy dose of trash talk. It's classic Jake Paul, loud, arrogant, and completely out of touch with reality. The same guy who picks opponents that are practically hand-picked for easy victories is now claiming he can take down Andrew Tate, who's a four-time kickboxing world champion. Let that sink in for a moment. Jake's so-called fight career has been one long series of big matchups that ended in mediocrity, or even worse, pure embarrassment. And we can't forget that cringe-worthy moment when he faced off with Mike Tyson. What a joke. Jake Paul, the guy more known for avoiding legitimate challenges than actually stepping up to real competition, is now trying to act like he's ready to go toe-to-toe with Andrew Tate. Not because of skill, of course, but because of his usual bravado and trash talk. It's like trash talk versus genuine talent, and let's be honest, Jake's clearly out of his depth. But of course, Jake says he's ready to back it up. He boldly claims Tate's too scared to fight him or his brother Logan. He insists, "Andrew Tate, you're scared to get in the ring with one of us, but let's face it, he sounds like someone who's been running from a real fight for years." Jake Paul might be popular online, but anyone who knows anything about the world of professional sports knows that his boxing career is more of a circus than anything. His online persona, built around pranks and manufactured drama, has convinced some people that he's a legitimate athlete. But let's be real for a second, this is the same Jake Paul who has barely fought anyone with real combat experience. So now he's trying to act like he can beat Andrew Tate, the man with a career full of real wins in kickboxing? It's laughable. So, Andrew Tate, with his 4 legitimate kickboxing world titles, steps up and calls out Jake Paul for a fight. Why wouldn't he? Jake's entire career in boxing has felt like a bad reality show. Think about it, MMA fighters who are past their prime, athletes who are well beyond their best days, these are the guys Jake seems to handpick for his matches. It's almost like Jake's just cherry-picking easy wins to make himself look better. And then there's Tate, who actually has a record to back up his confidence. A total of 76 professional wins in kickboxing, not exactly the type of opponent you'd want to brush off if you're serious about fighting. But Tate didn't just call Jake out, he went straight for the jugular, questioning Jake's courage and making fun of his attempts to stay relevant in the world of combat sports. Coming from a guy who made his name teaching about wealth, luxury, and alpha male behavior, Tate's words carry weight. He doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. Meanwhile, Jake predictably runs to his podcast to air his side of the story. On his podcast, Jake goes off, trying to paint the picture of Andrew Tate as someone who's too scared to step into the ring with him or his brother Logan. He claims, "Andrew Tate, you're scared to get in the ring with one of us." But let's not forget it's Jake Paul who has dodged fights with serious contenders. Remember when he spent more time avoiding Tommy Fury than actually training for a fight? Jake calling anyone scared is the definition of irony. The guy who picks opponents with one hand tied behind their back has the audacity to accuse someone else of being afraid. Jake's whole tough guy persona has become a bit of a joke at this point. He likes to boast about his fights, but let's be real here, he's built a career dodging legitimate challenges while getting into ring matches that are more spectacle than sport. Even when he does step in the ring, it's with guys who are either over the hill or unqualified to be in a boxing match with him in the first place. Now let's talk about Jake's latest theory on why Andrew Tate won't fight him. According to Jake, Tate is worried about damaging his alpha male image. Really? That's rich coming from someone whose entire shtick is based on cherry-picking fights with guys who are either over the hill or just not on his level. Jake's so-called bravery is taking on opponents who, let's face it, should probably be enjoying their retirement, not getting dragged into these publicity stunts. But in Jake's world, that's enough to call himself a serious fighter. And then, in a rare moment of seeming maturity, Jake agrees that Andrew Tate shouldn't be banned from social media. Jake says it's important to protect free speech. Now that's a nice sentiment, right? But coming from someone who has spent most of his career using social media to hurl insults and create drama, it's hard to take seriously. Jake's free speech stance feels more like a publicity move than a principled position. After all, this is the same guy who built his entire online persona around controversy and manipulation, so his sudden concern for freedom of speech is, let's say, a little hard to buy. But Jake doesn't stop there. He's got a challenge for Tate if Tate really wants to fight. Jake says, "Send me a contract. I'll take a break from my retired life and come kick your ass." So now, Jake is playing the part of the humble warrior, offering to fight Tate for free. Funny how the guy who's always talking about cashing in on fights and pay-per-view profits is now willing to do it for nothing. Classic Jake Paul move. And while Jake continues to puff out his chest, let's not forget all the unfinished business he's got with other fighters. There's KSI, who he's been feuding with for years but somehow hasn't fought. And Tommy Fury, Jake's big fight with him, has been postponed more times than we can count. Visa issues, scheduling problems, or just plain excuses. It's starting to feel like the only thing Jake is consistent about is dodging real fights. But here's where it gets even more interesting. While Jake's been busy making excuses, Andrew Tate, who's not exactly known for being quiet, sees an opportunity to challenge him. Tate knows that Jake's career is built on dramatics and not real fights. So what does Tate do? He calls Jake out directly, offering him a chance to prove himself against a fighter who actually knows what he's doing. And how does Jake respond? With more talk, of course. He claims he's ready to face Tate, but let's be honest, this feels like another attempt to milk the drama and get more attention from fans who are easily convinced by his bluster. Jake Paul doesn't want to fight Andrew Tate. He wants the spotlight that comes with the feud. The trash talk, the media coverage, the endless posts about how he's the bad boy of boxing, this is what Jake lives for. But getting into the ring with Tate, a guy with a solid, proven kickboxing career, would mean stepping into the reality of real combat sports. That's something Jake's not exactly built for. And let's not forget Jake's obsession with trying to step up to the likes of Canelo Alvarez. Now, challenging someone like Canelo, one of the greatest pound-for-pound boxers in the world, is beyond delusional. It's like a toddler challenging a professional sprinter. It's laughable, embarrassing, and it's only adding to Jake's reputation for being completely detached from reality. This is the same Jake Paul who barely scraped by against Anderson Silva, a 47-year-old MMA legend. Sure, Silva's a respected name in the world of martial arts, but he wasn't in his prime when he faced Jake. And yet Jake, in his mind, seems to think that beating a retired fighter automatically qualifies him to face the best in the world. But when you look closer, you start to realize Jake's so-called victories are about as genuine as a staged prank. Now let's talk about Jake's latest controversy. He's managed to land himself in a lawsuit after accusing Eddie Hearn, the heavyweight boxing promoter, of paying off judges to influence scorecards. Yep, that's right, Jake thinks he's uncovered some deep corruption in professional boxing. I'm sure the entire boxing world was just waiting for Jake Paul, the master of viral pranks and stage drama, to expose it all. But let's be real here. Jake's accusations have no substance, and now he's facing a $100 million lawsuit for making baseless claims. Jake, being the self-proclaimed truth-teller, didn't back down. Instead, he took it to his podcast, promising to debunk the lawsuit allegations in an upcoming episode. That's rich. The guy who's made a career out of manipulating social media for personal gain now wants us to believe he's going to expose corruption in professional boxing? Sure, Jake? We'll just wait for your groundbreaking expose, where you probably break down the lawsuit in a way that's as credible as one of his prank videos. But what's even more entertaining is how Jake's constantly finding himself in these bizarre, self-inflicted messes. Remember his ongoing feud with Tommy Fury? These two were supposed to fight back in 2021, then again in 2022. And guess what? Tommy had an excuse every single time: injuries, visa issues, or whatever else could delay the fight. Yet, Jake, who loves to trash talk Tommy online, keeps acting like he's the one in control of the situation. And now, even though Jake still hasn't fought Tommy, he's claiming that a fight could happen in 2023. But let's not forget Jake's track record with big matchups. He talks a big game, but he's pretty consistent about not following through when it matters most. If this fight happens, and that's a big if, it's probably going to be another overhyped spectacle that'll leave fans scratching their heads about why they bothered tuning in. As we turn the page, we now have a serious wildcard in the mix: Andrew Tate. A potential Jake Paul vs. Andrew Tate fight is actually one of the few matchups that could be genuinely interesting. Why? Because Tate, with his 76 wins in kickboxing, is no slouch when it comes to combat sports. Unlike Jake, who's built a career around fighting people with little to no experience, Tate brings a wealth of legitimate fighting experience into the ring. He's not just some internet personality trying to get famous through gimmicks. He's a combat veteran, and when you step into the ring with someone like that, things get real very fast. The comparison between Jake and Tate is hard to ignore. On one hand, you've got Jake Paul, the self-proclaimed future of boxing, whose most notable wins have come against MMA fighters well past their prime. On the other hand, you've got Andrew Tate, who's been competing in actual combat sports for years, with a track record that speaks for itself. This is the kind of fight that could test Jake's so-called abilities, but will he step up when it counts? The truth is, Jake Paul is all about the theatrics. He loves the trash talk, the headlines, and the social media buzz. He doesn't really want to prove himself in the ring. He wants to create a spectacle that'll make him even more famous. Fighting Andrew Tate would actually force him to face someone who can actually throw a punch, and we all know Jake doesn't have much experience when it comes to fighting people who actually know how to box. At the end of the day, it's clear that Jake Paul's career has been one long attempt to convince the world that he's a legitimate fighter, despite all the evidence to the contrary. His track record is filled with more excuses than actual victories. From avoiding Tommy Fury to picking fights with people who are clearly past their prime, Jake has carefully crafted a persona that relies more on drama and spectacle than actual fighting ability. Jake's latest antics calling out Andrew Tate, while simultaneously dodging real challenges, are just another chapter in the ongoing saga of his career. But no matter how much he talks, no matter how loud he gets, the truth remains: Jake Paul is not a serious fighter. He's a product of the internet age, built on controversy and quick headlines. And while he may fool some of his audience into thinking he's a true athlete, the reality is that he's still miles away from being on the same level as guys like Andrew Tate, who have earned their stripes in real combat sports. In the end, a Jake Paul vs. Andrew Tate fight might never happen, but if it does, we all know what to expect. A lot of noise, a lot of drama, and probably an outcome that won't leave anyone surprised. Because when it comes to Jake Paul, it's not about the fight, it's about the show. So whether Jake Paul steps into the ring with Andrew Tate or not, one thing's for sure: it'll always be a spectacle. But we've seen this play out before. Jake thrives on drama and controversy, but when it comes to real fighters like Tate, he might just find himself out of his depth. But hey, this is Jake Paul we're talking about, so maybe he'll keep riding the wave of viral moments for a while longer. In any case, whatever happens next, we'll be here to break it all down for you. If you think this fight's going to happen, or if Jake's just going to keep dodging the real challenges, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.